When I was running Holiday Magic Cosmetics, which was the largest MLM direct sales company in the world at the time, one of our distributors, we used to call them holiday girls, like an Avon lady, was named Jeannie Harrington, and she was married to Jim Harrington, who happened to be the launch test supervisor of the manned space program. Goes all the way back to Vanguard, the Navy rockets that would go up about 3 feet and fall over. And I used to watch those as a kid on television. So Jeannie called me one day. I remember I was in Canada, and she said, would you like to come down and watch an Apollo launch? And I said, absolutely. She said, how much warning do you need? I said, you just gave it to me. When? And it was watching Apollo 14 take off. That was Alan Shepard's flight, and it followed 13, which had blown up, while circling the moon. So I was excited about going to it. A little tentative though, since we just had a bad experience. I didn't want to have another one that I was at. But she said, "Come on down." Well, to surprise me, that night at their house they had a barbecue. And the launch crews and the astronauts for Apollo 14, 15, and 16 were there. 15, 16, and 17 were there because they wanted to see 14 take off also. So I got thrown into the bunch in the middle of a bunch of astronauts, and it turned out Jim and Jean Harrington were excited to have the president of Holiday Magic Cosmetics at their house. The president of Holiday Magic was excited to meet astronauts. I did everything but bring my autograph book. So I was set up properly, and they wanted to hear what I had to say. So sitting around casually and wandering around, explaining, because they were all acutely aware that being an astronaut was not a lifetime occupation. It had an end date because of death, accidents, or just age. So they want to know, what do we do next? So it turned into sort of a motivational seminar and working seminar. Mainly we ate and had a good time, but I remember sitting in the living room with all these people gathered around me, and I thought, the wrong person is in the chair. I should be sitting on the floor looking at them. So somewhere during the evening, Jim Irwin, commander of Apollo 15, said, "Ben, if you don't mind, I am naming you our attitude coach." And the other astronauts all went, yeah. Now, like a lot of things, like teaching at San Quentin for 5 years, attitude coach didn't come with any cash. It is one of those honors that you can't turn down, but you can't. I couldn't ask for money for it. So I began working with the astronauts and the directors of NASA, Dr. Miles Ross and Dr. Davis at the time were the heads, and sharing some ideas with them. They were very open. I walked in their office, "Ben, what can we be doing better, etc." We set up a program over a few weeks' time where the 100 and so astronauts that didn't have a shot scheduled, they were, treading water. I said, "What do they do?" And they said, "Well, they train." I said, "Have they pretty much got it now?" And they said, "Well, yeah, most of them." I said, "Well, let's put them on the road and let America see what wonderful people they were," which by and large they were. Well, what would they talk about? And I said, and they'd also talked about NASA has never gotten as much as 2% of the budget. So we went to the moon and back and have done all sorts of amazing things on a shoestring, basically. And one of the reasons is the taxpayers, a lot of them were saying, "Why are we going to the moon?" I hear it now with Mars. Why are we going to Mars? Well, it's, as Jim Rohn used to say, it's not important you become a millionaire. It's important what you become while you're becoming a millionaire. It's not important we go to Mars, except what you have to do to get there. It probably, if I went in your office right now, I could point out 15 or 20 things that would not exist if NASA hadn't needed them. And needed them minutes. You have a heart attack, God forbid, when you're in the ambulance and the hospital is talking to him and they're beginning treatment while you're still parked in front of your house. That's NASA. That's where it came from. So I said, let's get these guys with a script. Oh, and I said, do you have it written down anywhere, all the things that came from NASA? They came in with a thing that looked like the New York phone book. I said, has anybody ever seen this? Well, no. Well, why would they want to see it? I said, because they want to know where their money is going. From digital watches to miniaturized computers. I have a cell phone here who has the firepower, can't hold it the right way, has the firepower of any one of the consoles in mission control when a rocket goes off. And the personal computer I'm looking at has more firepower than the entire control room, for $1,200, whatever it costs, than the entire control room had when we sent 3 men to the moon and back. So it's amazing what they had to accomplish. We didn't have the huge rockets like the Russians had. Russians didn't have to miniaturize. We couldn't casually throw a 1-pound item on the ship. Every ounce had to be accounted for and therefore miniaturized. So we took the 100 or so astronauts, gave them scripts on all the things that NASA has done, encouraged wherever they went that the entire public be invited, but our cover story was they were going to go out and talk to the schools under the theory the students would go home and tell mom and dad, you won't believe what NASA's doing, and even better, have mom and dad come to the school. So we turned about 100 fighter jockeys back in those days. Pretty much you were a pilot first. Turned 100 fighter jockeys into public speakers and publicity agents for NASA. And that program still continues. If you see an astronaut come to your town to talk about NASA and all the wonderful things it's doing, they weren't doing that before the night before Apollo 14 took off.
Ben, did you personally work with these fellows on their public speaking?
Yes. Yeah. Those who felt they needed it. The fighter pilot mentality is such that a lot of them don't feel like they need anything. A friend of mine, Danny Cox, who was a fighter pilot and a famous speaker in the real estate business, he said, do you want to know how you're in a room with a fighter pilot? And I said, yeah, how do you tell? He said, he will tell you.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. He was aware of the ego quotient. So they wanted to get out there and do it, but they're into training. So they wanted to have it standardize what they said.
This has been Jeff Stearns, Connected Through Cars.